Going to therapy is a strange thing in my family. There was no need for therapy as long as you didn't acknowledge your toxicity, trauma, or tricks of nature. You were absolutely fine. Yet I did not want to be like my family, so unhealed and unhappy, especially because I did not matter to them. How they participated in my well being and my future for them was always perfect, because they swore they did the best, not their best. It was an epiphany I had the day my dog died. When you grow up with a mother who thinks they are the smartest person on the planet and yet had the planet thrown on top of their head consistently, it's extremely emotionally overwhelming. My mother took me as an opportunity to be what she always wanted to be for others, a teacher. Her relationships with her friends was as the fun guru, the one they called when they needed advice that they would never take. They would never leave their husband if he beat them, took their money, or just barely could get a hard on. They would never invest in a home or even get good stock because they feared losing more money now over gaining more money later, which did not satisfy their instant gratification. Still, when it came to taking her own advice or getting advice, my mother was shut down. And in many ways, that was the essence of our relationship. Her telling me her opinions on how I should exist and giving me an occasional $20 for a sandwich. Again, when my dog died, things changed. I adopted Doggy in a moment of my life when I feared I would attempt to kill myself a third time. For my mother and father, my sadness was mine. It did not at all stem from my father's abusiveness or my mother's lifetime of reliance on me as her emotional and mental stability in exchange for her financial one. I was their plushy toy, and I was shocked that despite all my determination and ambition, I had flattened. I thought my dreams would always be my fuel to escape them, but somehow, whether they were around me or not, I was caged by a lifetime of being there for them while having no one there for me. The epiphany made me angry, depressed, and so devastatingly isolated that I either learned what it was to be loved or left this earth and asked that in my next reincarnation I be born in the Ambani wedding. Did anybody see that? It's trending on TikTok. It was like $600 million, that wedding. Okay, I digress. That weekend I got a dog, and he became my first experience in unconditional love. I had never been loved without conditions, and Daddy Recovery has shown me that. And it has also shown me that shamefully, I may not have been as loving as unconditionally as I thought. My dream as a child was not just to be a singer and actress, but also loved and determined to know what it was to grow up in a home that had peace. No yelling, no lessons, no demands, no constant exhaustion. I wanted to have relationships with people that were healed and healing, and did not define compromise as taking on somebody's messiness because they're funny. Yet as I grew up, I found myself consistently manifesting my parents in the form of friendships, lovers, and bosses, people that used me to satisfy or revive the parts of them that they had given up on, like their creativity or ambition. For giving them their confidence or plain feeling of warmth back, in exchange, I wanted them to love me and do the same thing for me. But I found myself getting emptier and emptier. Sometimes when I look back on my childhood, that's exactly what it was, a slow erasure of self. Thus, when I got my dog, I was surprised that he was everything I had always wanted. Sweet, loving, and so eager to just be there for me. I lost my place. He cuddled me, something I had never had in my life, at least not without me being the constant initiator. He played with me, something I often did alone as a child, and he just stayed with me, which often as a kid I was just told to stay with myself. Of course, when I told my mom that I raised myself, she was like, "Where the fuck was I?" I was there, and I could tell her exactly where she was. On the couch, watching TV, either fighting with her coworkers in her head or tired from illnesses and a father that had emotionally battered her. My mother was so exhausted by everyone that when it came to me, she had no energy. But my dog was all energy, and he just wanted to give it to me. For 5 years, he was the sugar topping over a shit of life. He made me better, even if my life didn't get better, and he became a luxurious tolerance/distraction. From the fact that I was not working in a job that I wanted, I still had no human relationships that made me feel valuable. And when it came to confidence in myself, I was nowhere near even thinking that maybe I should work on that. Yet, when he asked me for a belly rub, I could do it for hours. When he died so suddenly, I was shocked. I adopted him at 1 year old, severely beaten, malnourished, and unloved. And I had revived him in the same ways he had revived me. But it wasn't enough. He still passed. My first experience in unconditional love had gone away. And all my mother could tell me was, "You wish it was me, right? You wish it was me who died." I could not believe that I was back at square one, having to build again someone else with no one building me. When I went back to my therapist, she asked me why my mother asked me that question, and I often go back to my brain seeking a proper reason. All my life, my mother accused me of saying things that I didn't say. She said I called her bad by age 1, that I spent my entire childhood from age 3 to 12 saying I would abandon her or she would abandon me. But my mother's emotional neediness was something that I had grown so accustomed to that I can't exactly pinpoint its reasoning, beyond the fact that my mother pleased the world so much, especially her own mom, and she was constantly crushed it did not care for her pleasure. Hence, she took the opportunity with me as her child to make sure I did. But that's why I spent my entire life pleasing her, everybody, and in some ways becoming her. But my dog reminded me of me. And I don't know if I need to know anymore why she spent the next few weeks after Doggy's death claiming I wished her death and completely fucking with my grieving process. She turned one of the worst moments of my life into her need to hear that she's great. But it would launch me into a determination to redo my life and find the human beings that did love me unconditionally, while accepting it would never come in the form of my parents, my past. So I thank you, Doggy. You may have been an animal to everyone, but to me you were salvation, and just what I needed to remember that I do need to love me unconditionally. Thank you. So I went to therapy, and it was so funny. Like, when I talk about how traumatizing my childhood was, at least emotionally and mentally, I don't cry that much. I kind of cried out, or I cry more so privately, or I'm just exhausted. I've reached a point where I've cried so much about all the bad relationships I've had that now I'm just like, I'm bored with crying and I really want good ones. And Doggy was one of the first great relationships I've ever had, and he was an animal. And we often, animals are animals, but animals are sentient, which is why I believe they deserve equality. The minute they have feelings, they deserve love, respect, and protection. And I say that for everything, for everyone, for every creature on earth. And I was just so shocked. I didn't realize you could be loved unconditionally. You could just be wanted. I had never had that with another human being. I had always started my relationship giving, 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 giving. And if they gave back to me, great. Wow, how surprising. And if they didn't give back to me mentally or emotionally, unsurprising. That's what I was raised by. It was something that I was talking about in therapy. I didn't realize that by the time I had been launched as an adult into the world, I was entering, and it's something that came from childhood too. Like, I always entered relationships very servile and servicey. And I almost thought I was impressive because I could handle toxicity and messiness. And, if you were a bullshitter, so was my dad. I could handle it. If you were emotionally volatile, so was my mom. I could handle it. Just give me your love and a laugh. And I had such a low, low, low bar. I mean, the bar was to the ground in terms of what you needed to do for me to overstay and overplay my importance in your life. And that was what my mother did. My mother was consistently shocked that everybody abandoned her. But it's because she gave everything to them, and they build their lives with the everything she gave, and made no connection to maybe thank her, to maybe show up for her, to maybe repay her. I mean, my mom was so integral to my father building his money back up again. She gave him the money to build his money back up again, and he just committed fraud against her, put her in debt, and left. And my mother really raised me to be the same person and called it virtue. Like she thinks because everybody she gave to everybody and they all abandoned her, that God is going to be like, you know what? Sainthood. Sainthood, give us sainthood. And I I'm using Daddy Recovery to learn two things. My father taught me that you have to be the center of your life, but does it have to come in exchange for ruining others? And my mother taught me that doing right by others is fantastic, but does it have to come in exchange for doing right for yourself? It's almost like she was too other centered, he was too self centered. And I'm determined to find a balance because I do love giving. My nature is very generous, but my mother is a cautionary tale of how you can become so old and tired and energetically vacant because you spend your entire life serving everybody and going hungry in exchange and thinking or perhaps pacifying yourself mentally with that's humility. That is goodness. And my frustration with my mother is the same frustration she has with her mother, because this is all generational. And I'm sure my grandmother had it with her mother, which is this idea that my child is the only one I can dump on because subconsciously I know she would never leave me. Because if she left me, that meant she's a bad person. And I think my dog's death triggered in me this realization that, or like the kind of, I always knew that my mother never saw how she emotionally and mentally battered me into this depressive person. And my father didn't see it at all, but I thought because my mother said she loved me and I loved her, because we did have this rapport and she did sacrifice for me, that she would have more, I guess, leeway in seeing how her behaviors totally disrupted me and triggered me and completely ripped from me any balance or identity beyond her emotional and mental balance and identity. It's like I couldn't be anything but her and her child and her security blanket in a world that she will never see. She did make herself insecure in. I am not as ashamed by as my mother is by what people do to me. And I have no problem saying I was stupid. I mean, I literally said it in this segment. Daddy Recovery has shown me, and there's an episode coming up where I had a fight with my ex, and he kind of said, that asshole, um, you know, he said something, I'm trying to remember the episode because I don't want to go ahead, but he said something that was so true, and I wrote about it, like, you don't really love me. And I was like, you son of a bitch. He made money off of my creativity because, like most wannabe artists, what we do is date people that say they're artists, even if they have no talent, because at least they're claiming who they think they are, why we are just living in imposter syndrome and proud of it and calling that humility, right? Again, calling insecurity a virtue. And in a way, the way he said it, and I'll release the episode, was so poignant and true. And it made me angrier because I had given so much to this person, again, overplaying my importance in their life. And they had absolutely no connection to me or no connection to the fact that I gave it out of love. Because that I loved him. But that I loved him unconditionally, I couldn't. Because I didn't love myself. I I think that one thing that I realized through therapy, By my very nature, I have always defined love as everything. Love is peace, love is kindness, love is intimacy, love is respect, love is beauty, love is, I mean, I really define love like a Libra. Like Libras are so romantic. They think love is all. And I should check where that my Libra is in my chart. And my family always defined love as automatic. Like it wasn't nuanced, it wasn't detailed, it wasn't layered. It was just, I love you. And I think that's why we love each other, but we don't like each other. We love each other, but we don't know each other. We love each other, but we don't respect and honor and thank each other. And it's why my mother, I kind of think she lives on a roofie because she'll really look at me and ask, "What have you done for me?" And absolutely every time my mother got sick, because she was such a sickly person throughout my life, I took care of her. Whether I was 8, 18, didn't matter. I was there physically, emotionally, mentally. Couldn't provide for her, but I provided in every way else. And I think that's why sometimes my resentment with money. Money was the only way everybody showed love. My father gave money to his other children, did not give money to me. And money to him was love. So he said it until the day he actually said he didn't love me. My mother did not do anything for me emotionally or mentally but give me a joke and money for school, money for food, and really thought that was love. Like there was no, love was not something that was deep. You could say you deeply felt it, but you never deeply showed it. And when I got my dog, it was just a level of purity that I always knew and defined love as. I define love like a dog. Maybe that will be the title of this episode. Because I really do. It's just so peaceful and fun and constant and unconditional. We just wanted to be together. And what he did was, I didn't use him as fuel to repair my life, ironically. I just used him as the sugarcoating. He was the band aid on a leg that really needed surgery because I was not walking right. And he was such a fabulous distraction because anybody with anxiety and depression who has a dog will tell you it's really hard to sink in our holes when you have these big eyes looking at you, asking you for dinner. And when he died so suddenly, it was like, oh shit, we're back. It was almost as if he was this splendid pause, and the minute he died, everything fell back to what was tempting me to commit suicide again. And my mother, I he died, and my mother the day after said, "You wish it was me who was dead, right? I know you wish it was me." And I just thought, oh my God. She didn't hug me after he died. She didn't hug me, as she didn't comfort me. She cried too. She loved that dog and he loved her. But it was like everybody in their own comfort process, which was most of my childhood. Whenever I felt bad, I was on my own. I was only involved in making other people feel good and telling them that they made me feel good. And whether or not they did, who knows? I just had to say it. And it was when she said that, it just shattered me. It shattered me because I don't know how to describe what my dog's death to me did to me. It broke me to a point where I couldn't even process what she was saying to me. Like it just felt too big, too overwhelming. Like I wasn't thinking of anything but the fact that the first time I experienced unconditional love had left me suddenly. And I was back in this suicidal ideation that I had tried so hard to get out of because I don't want to die. I just don't know how to live. I don't know how to get what I want because I was always told not to, that I shouldn't want anything beyond what everybody else wants. And I lost my best friend, my first big best friend. And she kept on saying it and monitoring my grief. Don't cry too much. Don't spend too much. Don't eat too much. And I just was like, leave me alone. You've already abandoned me. Because that's the thing about abandonment. My friend put it so perfectly, and I think I released the episode. People abandon you, but they don't leave you alone. It's like they're not there for you in any way you need or want, yet they are there for you in all the ways that you don't need or want. They are there to take your money. They are there to emotionally exhaust you. They are there to criticize the shit out of you. Um, and I felt like it was a return to this breathlessness that me and my mother always had. Like she raised me without oxygen. And my father just made sure I flatlined. Because he was literally fecal. Just a fecal matter of a man. If he wakes up every day pooping himself, it is not just deserved, it is who he was. Like he was just literally a poopy person. Like just the essence of poop. And I felt like if you didn't stand up to that guy, why are you stepping on me? And it changed. Like when she did that, and then the death of my best friend, it was this moment of like, I gotta get out of here. Because there's some little Edie energy up in this place of like, I'm gonna be the most vibrant person to tap dance for my mother and then die with her. We are going Grey Gardens, and I'm burning that garden. I'm burning it! And sometimes it really goes to show you, it's not like my life necessarily got better after that. I've got some stories too. But those tower moments, they're not always there to destroy you. They are there to rebirth you. They aren't, they are there to help you kill off the parts of you that you always felt were dying. But you got so used to feeling like death, you never actually killed them. And that was the beginning of my change. And within a few years, I would be doing daddy recovery. So that's the positive plot twist, right? Thank you for crying with me or hearing me cry. And please follow and subscribe. Always love you. I really do. Thank you.